has the first appearance of Galacta, daughter of Galactus, which is a human. Every month it would feature basically 3 stories that were... Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 102. We are going to start basically with some Martian Manhunter, and then we will get into some series that begin with the word Marvel, leading into Marvel Comics Presents, that classic series. So I'm so glad you're here. Please like and comment and subscribe. That really helps the channel. But in the meantime, hey, let's get going with 102 here on Glenn Simpson's Comics. Alright, we begin this box with Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal, number 1. This is a discount comic book service, just kind of sent me a bunch of these AWA series, one issues, and so they're pretty interesting. I didn't necessarily feel like pursuing the rest of it, but this is written by Garth Ennis, for those who are Garth Ennis fans. Then we have from Dark Horse, we have The Mark. Just kind of was exploring what this superhero was about. I don't think it didn't really catch my favor, such that I've been finishing it out. But I've got issue 1 of that. We get to the new universe. Once again, this is from the mid-'80s. Marvel decided to create a whole new universe of characters. Some even say they thought that it might take over from the old one. And Hazzard MERC was sort of like their Punisher. He was a mercenary, and it was just a look at the life of a more realistic look of what a mercenary's life would look like. So we have issue 1, issue 4. This really didn't have any superpowers or anything in it. Very, very gritty. Issue 5, art by Gray Morrow, classic artist. Issue 8, there. Issue 9. One weird thing that happened was the character, Hazzard, died. I can't remember what issue, but it was like issue maybe 10 or something like that. And then they had a couple of more issues where his friends were out still doing mercenary things. Through issue 12. You notice no Hazzard over here. He did. So there you go. Issue 12. That was the end of that series. He did have an annual at one point there. So then we have Marksman, number 1. So there is a role-playing game called Champions, and in the books, where you have all the rules and things, they have sample characters in the back that you can use if you don't want to create your own character. And also they kind of use those sample characters in illustrations and things to just, to illustrate throughout the book. And the Marksman is one of those. And so Hero Comics launched a line. I can't remember where it started, but Hero Comics launched a line featuring some of those characters actually having stories and things. So we got Luke McDonnell on the cover of this one. Marksman. That brings us to Martian Manhunter. So Martian Manhunter is a character that was created in the 1950s. He was teleported from Mars to Earth by a scientist who promptly died, and he had to sort of find his way from there, and eventually takes on a sort of superheroic identity, and his background changes every little bit every once in a while. He was, of course, one of the original Justice League of America, but other than, we'll see in a second, he's had like one really long running series, but that's about it. And that was really kind of arguably leveraging his popularity as part of the JLA series. But in this one, we have J.M. DeMatteis and Mark Badger telling us the story. His vulnerability is fire. His kryptonite is fire, and they kind of keep re-explaining why that is. And this may be the first time where we learn that it's not a physical vulnerability, it's a mental one, psychosomatic kind of thing. So there you go, 4 issues. Original Martian Manhunter, first Martian Manhunter. He was in, I don't remember what series he was in. It was, I think this, no. He was in one of DC's, other sort of adventure books for many, many years. Then he eventually got his own series running again at the same time as the JLA series was going, which he was a part of. He had a 0 issue coming out of 0 Hour, which we're seeing here. But of course, here's the actual first issue. Right there, John Ostrander, Tom Mandrake, they both stayed on the book, I think, all the way through. We learned a lot about him. We learned that he had sort of traveled the world. He's a shapeshifter, so he can take on the appearance of other, of really anyone. And so we always knew that he had the John Jones standard disguise. But what we find out along the way is that he would have multiple identities. A little old lady in Japan, or he was a African American temporary farm worker in Smallville, and things like that. So he was all over the place, taking in humanity, learning from it. That's issue 1. Issue 4. So here he is teaming up against, or going up against Jim, son of Saturn, which ironically are what they were doing here. So Jim appeared in Jim, Son of Saturn, which we saw a few boxes ago, and that was a series that really was supposed to be a Martian Manhunter series, and then I guess they decided that they were changing him too much, so they decided to just go all the way and change him into a totally different character. And so with that in mind, they're having the two go up against each other. They're obviously kind of visually similar, similar powers, and we established some background on the relationship between Mars and Saturn in this storyline. A lot of that would be, if I remember correctly, reflected in the Young Justice cartoon. Issue 5. There. Issue 12. Going up against, I believe, deceased Justice Leaguers that he had known previously. There. Issue 13. Continuing the Martian Manhunter, Jim, Son of Saturn storyline. Issue 20. This kind of gets to what I was talking about a moment ago. Revelations was a storyline where we catch up with several moments in the past and find out that, in a bit of a Forrest Gump kind of way, Martian Manhunter was around for the birth of several different major superhero-y historical events, such as baby Kal-El coming to Earth. And continuing that, we have him in his early days teaming up with Abin Sur. Abin Sur being the Green Lantern who would die eventually on Earth and pass his ring on to Hal Jordan to be the new Green Lantern. Continuing revelations over in the Justice League book, they had established just as kind of a humor thing that Martian John just really loves what they call Chocos, which are their version of Oreos, and so they kind of get into some of the origin of why he loves Chocos so much. One of the more important revelations, right? Issue 25, starting a new storyline. The nature of Mars itself has, they kind of danced around that a lot in at DC, because I think when the series first came out, the notion was that there were still people living on, not people, but, Martians living on Mars, and it's just that John couldn't get home. And we were just going to ignore the fact that, Green Lantern could just fly him home. So then it became, well, he was thrown forward in time, not just in space, and so the Martian race was long gone. But the problem with that is then the white Martians, the other Martians, not to mention a few other green Martians, show up from time to time. So it's like, well, how did they get here then? So bit of a quandary there. But issue 25, I actually think that the cartoon did it pretty well. The notion is that there are Martians living in Mars right now, in the present, but we don't see them because they're all living underground. So, there you go. Now, that doesn't, and he can go home, he just chooses not to. He chooses to live on Earth and, help out as a superhero. 25. 32 there. I can't remember if this is the one. There was one time when he got hurt and he was sort of regenerating in a kind of a Wolverine style, but he had to pull matter from the Earth, and because it was from the Earth instead of Mars, it temporarily kind of altered his appearance and things. Right, and then 33, some more of his early life with his wife and children on Mars. There. And then the series ends with 36. There. He had a 1 million issue showing what was going on with the superhero community in the 853rd, I think it was, century, and Martians being extremely long-lived. He's just still around, I think. But you think they would have a overpopulation problem if they were going to live that long. Anyway, Martian Manhunter annuals, annual 1. This year, all of DC annuals had some sort of ghost-oriented story. And issue 2 of the annual, this year they were all telling this story where lots of heroes got turned into apes. So a bit like the JL Apes. Well, it is exactly like JL Apes. I'm sorry, but what is it over at Marvel? Marvel Apes. So kind of the same thing. So then we get in the what is that? 06. We get another series, kind of starting over, not from scratch, but really redefining his history again. They do that a lot with him. They just can't quite settle on things. That's issue 1 through issue 8. There. So then we jump to 2015. The next series. Issue 1. Issue 6 right there. I don't really recall what's going on. These various Martian Manhunter series. Issue 7. Excuse me. There. Through issue 12. That's the end of that series. As always, if you want to see all of a series or something like that, just comment and we'll make that happen. We've got the fairly recent, let's see, remind myself, no, it's not on there, but anyway, got this one, the next one, issue 1, Riley Rossmo art, issue 6, there, issue 7, Riley Rossmo being a bit of an acquired taste. This is supposed to be a relatively attractive female right there. Issue 7 through issue 12. There. Alright, then we get to some other things. We have this Martian Manhunter American Secrets 3-issue series. It actually takes place in the 50s, and rather than, one of the things they did with Martian Manhunter, so most of the time, take Superman, for example, his beginning keeps getting pushed up. With Martian Manhunter, they keep his arrival in the 50s, but then he kind of goes undercover, and then he, decides, oh, I'll be a superhero, right about the same time Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all that happens. So the longer we go, the more time he will have spent kind of roaming the earth and just kind of understanding humanity. And so this actually takes place in the 1950s, late 50s, maybe 60s. American Secrets, written by Gerard Jones, who did some bad things and went to jail. But they will not reprint this stuff, anything that he wrote. So there you go. Issue 3 of that. Eduardo Barreto, artist. Martian Manhunter and Marvin the Martian, Earthling, from the Looney Tunes. Big drama, Martian on Martian action. Got this Martian Manhunter special. I'm gonna shout out my favorite term, trademark preservation. Just maybe hadn't had a series in a while, so we needed to get something out there with his name on the front. Alright, and so that ends the Martian Manhunter, and now begins the span of Marvel. We will begin things beginning with the word Marvel, and we will be hanging with that for, oh golly, at least 5 or 6 boxes. So This was a recent one-shot celebrating, I don't know what they were celebrating, but it's Marvel Age 1000, and this is the George Perez variant cover. After his passing, they did this. They just gathered some sketches and commissions and things that he'd done for people and used them as covers, variant covers. This is got Captain Marvel on the front, who happens to be one of my favorite costumes. Right there. And we've got actually a fairly recent book, Marvel All-on-One, Thing versus the Marvel Universe. It's another one of those things they've been doing lately where, X character versus the entire rest of the universe. Marvel Universe, they beat up all the other superheroes. I don't generally get those, but I got this one for some reason. And the Marvel All-on-One is a play on the fact that the Thing had his own team-up book for years and years called Marvel 2-in-1, which we'll see eventually. But, so there you go. And we have something you might not have been expecting because people don't realize what the formal title is, but Marvel and DC Present is the name of this book, Uncanny X-Men and New Teen Titans. So it's, I don't know, 82 or so. Yeah, I think he signed it in 82. The New Teen Titans has been out for a couple of years. Uncanny X-Men is the biggest thing over at Marvel, and so DC and Marvel get together and work out a deal to do this crossover of their two biggest properties. Regrettably, George Perez did not do the art. It went to Walt Simonson, but he's no slouch himself, and it involves, as a wraparound cover, but it involves Darkseid from the DC side. And this takes place in a world where they all just already live. There's no crossing over between universes in this. They just all kind of conveniently live in the same world. Darkseid revives the deceased Jean Grey as Phoenix to manipulate her into, enabling him to take over the world or whatever. So, and our heroes have to stop him. So, Marvel and DC present the Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans. Oh, hey, speaking of Marvel Apes, look at there. Just one of those weird memes that gets going. Hey, let's turn all of our heroes into apes. You got Spider Monkey, I can't remember all their funky names, but they've all got, puns. Names are puns based on, the combination of their normal hero's name and the Amerigorilla or something, I don't know. But, little storyline going on there. Issue 1 through issue 4, a parody of the issue of Civil War where Captain America died. Yeah. And I think they came back later to revitalize it, do a little more. So we have the Amazing Spider Monkey one-shot. So these are all one-shots. There. Oops. Hang on. And just had to flop that around. Hey, did you notice though that was the Wonder Woman movie, the animated film being advertised on the back of a Marvel comic? Huh. Anyway, got some more. This is a parody, actually kind of timely here. Looking the cover with the Fantastic Four, with the doing the 4 symbol, and that had become popular, and then we started seeing a lot of that with the recent movie, and here it is, an homage to that for bananas. Let's see, got Marvel Assistant-Sized Spectacular. So, at Marvel, and DC for that matter, you have editors, and then you have assistant editors, and it's like anywhere else. You know, the editors are in charge of things, and then the assistant editors help them. And back in the 80s, there was what was known as Assistant Editors Month, where all the editors were gone to San Diego Comic-Con, so in theory, the assistant editors did all kinds of crazy things in the books that they were covering. But this is from years later, and it is a little anthology, and in theory, it is the assistant editors giving the go-ahead to various stories that they like, that their normal editor would not let them do. So now issue 1 is not that big a deal. We've got Demolition Man and Chris Aliopoulos, I believe, Hawkeye and things like that. But issue 2 has the first appearance of Galacta, daughter of Galactus, which is a humor story, not meant to be taken seriously, but as I understand it, Galacta is a character you can play in the Marvel Rivals game. So, therefore, her first appearance has shot up right there. We've also got Bloodstone, Power Man right there. Alright, then we go to Marvel Boy, number 1. So, Noh-Varr is this guy's name. He is a Kree, and he's a Kree from another dimension, not the normal. He's not like from the same, he's not from the 616 originally. Somehow he got crossed over here, and I don't even know if that's set in here or if that's just a retcon, because he's written by Grant Morrison, who just decides to do things the way that Grant Morrison wants to do them, and that may or may not sync up with what everybody else is doing. But this character had his own little series here, and then he would go on to appear in the Avengers and take on the name, I believe, the Protector, and then they kind of aged him up a little there, and then he would go back to being more of a younger hero and spend some time on the young Avengers side of things. And then he has a female villain here called Exterminatrix, who actually I think she shows up more than he does. But here we go, issue 1 right there. We've got issue 2 there. And there's Exterminatrix, issue 6. There we go. Right. And then we've got Marvel Boy, the Uranian. So, back in the 50s, Timely, which is the precursor to Marvel, had a character called Marvel Boy, and Marvel Boy would travel back and forth from the planet Uranus, and he would come back. He was from Earth, but he was raised on Uranus. Yes, I'm just going to keep saying it. He was known as Marvel Boy on Earth, and had some kind of an early version of Captain Marvel, Marvel. He had power bands and things like that. So then years go by, and the character kind of falls out. He shows up in the Fantastic Four briefly. And then they start doing the stories that would lead up to the Agents of Atlas, which are him and some other characters from the 1950s Timely /Atlas /Marvel Comics, and saying that they are on a team and they're still around and they're still doing stuff. So then he gets his own miniseries. Jeff Parker does pretty much most of the, or maybe not most, I don't know, a lot of the Agents of Atlas stuff. And he gets, they're trying to move away because he's a grown man. They're trying to move away from Marvel Boy, so he becomes the Uranian in this 3-issue series. Issue 1. Here we have him in his former Marvel Boy outfit. Of course, his wristbands would be passed on to Wendell Vaughn, who would be known as Quasar. Let's see, we've got... Look at this Marvel 2015 calendar. Apparently, if I were to unfold this, I would have a 2015 calendar. Well, or I would have, you know, each page is a month of the year. I just treat it like a regular comic. It's not even really a comic book. So here's something you don't see every day: the Marvel 2015 calendar with Alex Ross art cover. Marvel Classics comics from the 1970s. I picked this up in an auction or win a little stack of books. It wasn't something I had targeted on my want list, but Marvel did a line of comics adapting great works of literature, such as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Here, it's the first issue. Alright. Then we've got Marvel Collector's Edition presents Spider-Man, brought to you by Charleston Chew. Now you may be going, hey, I've never seen this before. Hang on a sec. One moment. Get it out. But have you seen that? That showed up in a gazillion ads in comics. I don't know why I don't have this as the front, you know, facing outward, but it's kind of a flip book with 2 stories. I think maybe CLZ lists it as Marvel Collector's Edition presents Spider-Man. That's why I've got that on the outside, just so that, you know, keep it organized. But there you go. Just a promotional book. All right. Hang on, I'm going to pause you while I put all this back together. And we're back. All right. Then we have Marvel Comics 1000, not to be confused with Marvel Age 1000. Another kind of celebration of the 80 years of publication at Marvel Comics. Got a cool Alex Ross cover there, and there were lots of variant covers to this. So that is that, and that did so well that even though it doesn't really make much sense, we have Marvel Comics 1001, so with some more celebratory stuff. And this Masked Rider, now that is a throughput of several of the stories. I think that one of the writers was trying to introduce this character, and he was I think he's like the narrator that kind of passes through all of it, with his starry mask. He's kind of got a Western theme. So there you go. That brings us to Marvel Comics Presents. So this was a twice a month series. I remember it from college, and it was every month. It would feature basically 3 stories that were, one story would run, you know, for quite a few issues. Or maybe it's just one issue. Like a lot of anthologies, you would have, you know, a headliner like Wolverine, and Wolverine would appear in just about every issue, even though he had his own series at the time, which, by the way, I'm sure anybody watching this that cares enough about comics to watch this channel knows this already, but You know, some people are like, look, this is Wolverine #1. No. You know, this is Marvel Comics Presents #1 that just happens to feature Wolverine. And it was, sometimes it was, you know, so the headliner would have ongoing series, and, you know, and then there would be like maybe somebody else that would be in there that would run for 4 or 5 issues and a short stories, and maybe like there would be somebody else, each issue would have like a short story about another character. So now these are kind of known for their wraparound covers, which you can't really appreciate when they're bagged and boarded. But this is the first issue, Walt Simonson cover on that. This will also, well, we'll talk about that when we get to it. You probably know what I was about to say. Issue 2. There, U.S. Agent. These are our clues here. U.S. Agent has a story. Wolverine has a story. We've got Wolverine and Thor having stories in issue 4. Thor is in 4. Got Wolverine and Daredevil and 3 other Marvel heroes. See? Lots of heroes. Lots of stories. Short stories. Issue 5 through issue 8. Got Wolverine and Man-Thing and Iron Man. I mean, even people that had their own books, they would get features in here. Issue 9, Wolverine. I don't know if it's Cloak and Dagger or just Cloak. There you go. Issue 12, Colossus takes over from Wolverine. Got Man-Thing story continuing. Got Hercules has a story in this one. Let's see, we've got Colossus, Black Panther, and Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman having stories in here. Sometimes the cover is reflective of what's going on in the story. Sometimes it's like, no, but let's take the people who have stories and let's, you know, show them interacting with each other. Issue 13. Issue 16, Kevin Nolan. Colossus cover, Long Shot. Getting a story in there. Alright, 17, we're moving over. Colossus finishes his story. Cyclops starts his. And Black Panther is continuing his story that started like previous issue or whatever. Alright, 20, Cyclops continuing his story. Mike Mignola, artwork there. Black Panther continuing his story. Probably one more in there, just no indication of what it was. 21, Walt Simonson doing a Cyclops cover. Paladin getting a story inside. There. And issue 24, Cyclops and his brother gets this feature. Black Panther continuing. Havoc, brother of Cyclops, starting a storyline. There. Some more Havoc. What's this guy's name? The Nth Man. He was kind of an American ninja sort of guy. I've got one, like his first issue of his regular series. I think this might have been a preview. They did that sometimes too. They would do somebody would appear here first, right before going into their own book. I was never a big Nth, the Ultimate Man or whatever fan, but got Havoc wreaking his name here. And another continuing, he's still running that Havoc story. And we have Triton of the Inhumans getting a story in this one as well. So now we have Havoc. We've got Wolverine. I want to say Wolverine is actually guest starring in the Havoc story, but check him out. We got Quasar. Quasar getting his own story here in Marvel Comics Presents number 29. 32. We shift over to Excalibur with a Todd McFarlane cover for you Todd McFarlane fans. And Sunfire, the Japanese fire based mutant. Also Japanese? Yeah. He has a story in there. The Excalibur story continues with Captain Britain, Submariner also having a story in here. Got more Excalibur with Phoenix, which is at the time Rachel Summers, who is from the future. She's Scott and Jean's daughter from the future, who was sent back to the present and eventually took on the Phoenix identity. Got a Hellcat story in there as well. More Excalibur with Lockheed, Kitty's Dragon, and Widget, the other little strange creature from Excalibur. Got all this time, apparently, Black Panther's been having his stories going on, and we've got Devil Slayer, having a story in this one. And we're going to jump back to Wolverine with Hercules. Backup story. Some more Wolverine. After a while, it seems like it just settles into like Wolverine and Ghost Rider every issue, because that's where the money was. 41, Wonder Man, star of his own upcoming Marvel show. There. Got issue 44 with Wolverine and Doctor Strange having stories. Alright, we've got Wolverine still going along. Wonder Man's story is continuing. We've got Hulk in his gray Joe Fixit role that he had at this time. He was more of a gangster than a rampaging monster. Alright, we've got Eric Larson drawing Wolverine versus Spider-Man, and we have a Doctor Doom story in here, so good stuff, good stuff. 49. Continuing the Wolverine and Spider-Man. I think they are teaming up in this. That's the nature of the story that's going on right now. Wolverine and Spider-Man teaming up. And we've got Daredevil with a story in this one as well. We've got Wolverine going against Wild Child. Wild Child is known for being as part of Gamma Flight, which was the sort of the training group that would lead up to Alpha Flight. Got the Gray Hulk still chugging along, plus 3 more features. Well, one of those 3 would probably be the Hulk. Wolverine still fighting on Wild Child. We've got Black Widow and Silver Sable. I'm betting that's Stingray. I'd know that cape anywhere. Got to be Stingray having a story in there. And we've got Wolverine and the Hulk together. Captain America getting a story in here. Yeah, continuing the Wolverine and Hulk story. Doctor Strange. Got Wolverine and Ghost Rider. Plus 3 more features, one of which is probably Mr. Fantastic. Alright, Wolverine and Ghost Rider some more. With a, gosh, what is that? That Mark Texiera? Anyway. And we've got Invisible Woman having a story in here. 68. More Wolverine and Ghost Rider. Paul Gulacy cover. Shanna the She-Devil story in there. Shanna? 69. Dude. Wolverine and Ghost Rider continue. Silver Surfer. Getting an adventure in there. And that brings us to 72. So, this begins a very special arc for Wolverine, wherein this is the first time we learn that the whole notion, or the backstory of how he got the adamantium, put onto his bones. So this is the whole story around him being, taken in and put in the vat and injected with all the adamantium, and then going nuts and killing everybody and escaping off into the woods. And that is the point where we previously knew what happened, because he had been picked up by the Hudsons of Alpha Flight and brought back to civilization and brought back to his senses. And then he became the superhero called Wolverine, and then he left for the X-Men, blah, blah, blah. Now, fun fact, I'm pretty sure at this point we still thought that he got his claws entirely because of the process that put the adamantium in his bones. I'd have to look at it again to see if what was implied or not, but the idea that he had bone claws without the adamantium still hadn't been invented yet. So that's that there's a little bit of retconning. I don't know if it would come, if it comes across, which way it comes across in there. It's been a while since I read it, but there you go. Issue 72 begins that storyline. And we continue that story in 73. Meanwhile, Submariner is back there doing his thing. That's not on the book. That's just some ugliness on the tape. Or is it? No, that is on the book. Huh. Or it's part of the art. Okay, anyway. Shauna having something going on. But anyway, continuing that Wolverine storyline. Of course, this is Barry Windsor Smith doing the art on this. It's just gorgeous. Issue 78. More of that. The Gray Hulk having a story. For such a brief summary that I just gave, it seemed like it's taking a while to tell that story. Issue 78. 82. There. Got a Firestar story in there as well. 83. The Human Torch. I had this was bundled, but at one point this was like apparently an expensive book for some reason, and then the price went back down, and I haven't had a chance to put it back in a bundle. That's okay. That gives you a couple more books to look at. 84. There. All right, so then that's done, and we're back to the present, if you will. We have Volcana, first seen in the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. Got Sam Keith doing art. I think that's supposed to be Wolverine. I mean, you know, supposed to be Wolverine there. 88. More looks like Sam Keith. Mojo, enemy of Longshot and the X-Men. Getting a story. Sam Keith. Sam Keith would go on to do The Pit. Is that right? Wolverine. North Star. Issue 92. 93. More Wolverine. Nova. So Nova is Frankie Ray. She's an Earth person who wound up becoming a fire-based. She was a fire-based sort of superhero for a little while, for half a minute, and then she became the fire-based Herald of Galactus for another half a minute. 93. But she's still got her story going. More Wolverine. Sam Keith cover. He may be doing the interiors, I can't remember on that. '97. More Wolverine. Silver Surfer. Got story in there. 100. We've got Ghost Rider coming on. I think the Ghost Rider is going to take over the book. No, not necessarily, but he and I think, like I said, Wolverine and Ghost Rider become the anchors for the book, and then there's maybe like one more story featuring somebody else, something like that. Dr. Doom in this particular case. Wolverine and Nightcrawler. Some Man-Thing action. Got Ghost Rider, Werewolf by Night, and Thanos gets a solo story in here. More Ghost Rider, more Werewolf by Night, and more Thanos. If you liked the last issue, you'll like this one too. 116, got Giant Man, got the Two-Gun Kid, back in Old West. And, of course, Ghost Rider and Iron Fist. So, Ghost Rider kind of doing his team-up thing there. One. Oh, okay. So, got Ghost Rider and Iron Fist teaming up. You've also got, or maybe not teaming up. I don't want to make the assumption that they're in the same story actually in the book. It may be two different stories. But anyway, you've also got the first appearance of Ravage 2099. One of the only sort of, from the 2099 line of books, this was the only like totally new character, you know, not a name that had been used before. He was kind of a weird character. Got more Giant Man, Bill Foster, and we've got Wolverine and Venom. Look at me just showing off my ability to tell you the names of characters. More Wolverine, Venom, Mirage from the New Mutants. Getting some spotlight there. Alright, 122, Wolverine, Venom. Ooh, okay, deep cut. Oh, well, okay. Whew. Knights of Pendragon. So a couple of boxes ago, back in the Ks, we looked at Knights of Pendragon. So I'd forgotten they actually showed up over here as well. I was about to deep cut that wrong. Alright, 126. We've got Wolverine. We've also got Sensational She-Hulk in that sort of flavor of her solo series with the humor-oriented flavor. Got Wolverine. We've got Black Widow. And Speedball, the sensation of the 90s. It's a kid who gets affected by this interdimensional energy machine, and he gains the powers to just kind of bounce off of things and exudes these little bubbles that can take down the bad guys. And his cat gets the same powers at the same time, so they adventure together. Issue 127 and 132. We've got Ghost Rider, we've got Cage, and we've got Iron Fist. I don't know if we have Iron Fist and Cage, which, you know, would be a throwback to Power Man and Iron Fist in the same story or not, but we at least have them all in the same book. And with this issue, we are finished with this box. Okay, so that was box 102. Next time we'll do box 103. Let's see, we'll be looking at some more Marvel Comics Presents, some Marvel Double Feature, some Marvel Holiday Tales, Marvel Knights, Marvel Man, Marvel Masterpieces, Marvel Monsters, and Marvel Mystery Comics. So it's a lot of little bits and pieces of Marvel there, and I'm so glad you were here for this video. Thank you so much. Hope you'll be here for the next one. And hey, have a great day.